Welcome to Jimmy Kimmel Live. I am your guest.
In a world that worships perfection, Brie Larson was never meant to fit the mold. She wasn't born into Hollywood privilege, nor did she wear fame easily. Behind the calm smile of Captain Marvel lies a woman who battled rejection, isolation, and a world that never wanted her to speak too loudly. From a cramped apartment in Los Angeles to standing under the blinding lights of the Oscars, her story isn't just about talent, it's about defiance. When she spoke about equality, they called her arrogant. When she stood her ground, they said she was difficult. And when she became the face of female strength, the internet turned her into a villain. But what if Brie Larson's controversy wasn't a downfall, but a reflection of Hollywood's fear of powerful women? This is not just the story of an actress. It's the story of a survivor, an artist, and a fighter, who learned that sometimes being misunderstood is the price of being authentic. How did Brie Larson rise from pain to power and become one of Hollywood's most divisive icons? Brie Larson was born Brianne Sidonie de Saulniers in Sacramento, California in 1989. A little girl with a wild imagination and a quiet fire in her eyes. Her parents were homeopathic chiropractors who ran a small practice, but behind the family smiles lay tension and distance. When Brie was just 7, her parents divorced, a rupture that would define her sense of independence and resilience for years to come. She moved with her mother and younger sister to Los Angeles, chasing a dream neither of them could quite afford. They lived in a tiny one-room apartment, sleeping side by side on a single bed. The city was harsh, auditions filled with rejection, bills that never stopped coming. Yet Brie didn't see poverty. She saw possibility. While other kids played outside, she was writing stories, filming herself with a cheap camcorder, inventing characters to escape loneliness. Those early struggles shaped her, not into a victim, but a visionary. Brie once said, "When you grow up in chaos, you learn to find control in creativity." Her childhood was a crucible, one that forged the emotional intensity that would later define her performances. From the silence of that cramped apartment, a future Oscar winner was already learning how to speak through pain. Hollywood didn't open its doors easily for Brie Larson. She started as a child actor in minor TV roles, Raising Dad, Touched by an Angel, and a few commercials that barely paid rent. While other kids her age were dreaming of fame, Brie was just hoping for a callback. Every rejection became a quiet rehearsal for resilience. In her teens, she tried to reinvent herself, even releasing a pop album in 2005 titled Finally Out of PE. But it went largely unnoticed. Critics dismissed her as another Hollywood hopeful chasing too many dreams. She felt invisible, stuck between who she was and who she wanted to be. Then came Short Term 12 in 2013, a low-budget indie film that would change everything. Brie played Grace, a counselor in a foster care facility, a role that demanded vulnerability, empathy, and raw emotional honesty. When the film premiered, audiences were stunned. The pain in her eyes wasn't performance, it was truth. Critics called her the heart of the decade's most human film. For the first time, Hollywood didn't just see Brie Larson, it felt her. That was the moment everything shifted. A quiet storm was gathering, and Brie was about to become one of the most commanding new voices in cinema. After Short Term 12, Brie Larson was no longer the underdog. She was the revelation everyone had overlooked, until now. 2 years later, she took on a role that would define her generation. Room, 2015. As Joy Ma Newsome, a kidnapped woman raising her son in captivity. Brie didn't just act, she became the pain. The film was suffocating, intimate, and devastating. Audiences cried with her, critics hailed her as extraordinary, and awards followed like destiny. At just 26 years old, Brie Larson held the Oscar for Best Actress, tears glistening under the golden stage lights. In that moment, she wasn't just a performer. She was the embodiment of survival, empathy, and truth. But Hollywood's crown comes with weight. With fame came scrutiny. Every word she spoke was dissected, every expression analyzed. Still, she refused to play the Hollywood game. Brie was not content to be just another face on a poster. She wanted to change the conversation. Then came Captain Marvel, 2019, the first female-led superhero film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It made over $1 billion worldwide and turned her into a global icon. Little girls wore her costume. Women called her a symbol of empowerment. And Brie became the face of strength itself. She had conquered Hollywood's highest peaks, from indie credibility to blockbuster immortality. But as the lights burned brighter, the shadows around her began to grow. Because in a world that celebrates strong women on screen, it often punishes them in real life. When Captain Marvel exploded at the box office, Brie Larson became one of the most powerful women in Hollywood. But power, especially in the hands of a woman, comes at a price. It began with a press interview, a simple statement about diversity in film criticism. Brie said, "I don't need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work for him in A Wrinkle in Time." Her words were meant to invite inclusion. Instead, they ignited a digital firestorm. Overnight, the internet turned on her. YouTube videos labeled her arrogant, cold, anti-men. Comment sections filled with hate. There were calls to boycott Captain Marvel, memes mocking her expressions, even edited clips designed to make her look rude in interviews. She became a lightning rod, not for scandal but for standing her ground. Brie didn't fight back publicly. She smiled, stayed quiet, and let the storm rage. But behind the calm exterior, the pressure was suffocating. Friends described her as retreating inward, choosing silence over spectacle. For every award and billion-dollar headline, there was isolation and exhaustion. Hollywood had crowned her a feminist hero and crucified her for being one. She once said, "It's not my job to make people comfortable with my strength." And maybe that was the point. She wasn't trying to please the world anymore. She was trying to change it. The backlash that tried to break her would instead redefine her. Not as a star adored by everyone, but as an artist who dared to be herself, no matter the cost. After the storm, Brie Larson did what few Hollywood stars dare to do. She disappeared. No grand interviews, no social media wars, just quiet, reflection, healing. She stepped away from the blockbuster spotlight and turned towards stories that spoke to her soul. In 2023, she returned to the screen in Lessons in Chemistry, playing Elizabeth Zott, a brilliant scientist fighting sexism in the 1950s. The role mirrored her own journey, a woman underestimated, ridiculed, and yet unstoppable. Critics praised her performance as restrained but ferociously intelligent. It wasn't just acting. It was reclamation. Off-screen, Brie found new meaning. She directed short films, supported environmental causes, and used her platform for mental health awareness. Her Instagram shifted from red carpets to quiet moments. Sunlight through curtains, handwritten notes, books on philosophy. It was as if she no longer needed to prove anything. Brie Larson had evolved, from symbol to storyteller, from fighter to philosopher. She stopped chasing the validation of others and started embracing her own peace. Her silence, once mistaken for weakness, became her strongest voice. The same world that tried to define her was now watching and listening differently. Brie Larson's journey is not one of perfection, it's one of persistence. From a cramped apartment in Los Angeles to the highest stage in Hollywood, she's carried both the weight of expectation and the fire of conviction. She's been adored, attacked, celebrated, and misunderstood. Yet she never surrendered her voice. Her story reminds us that greatness doesn't come from applause. It comes from standing tall when the world demands you kneel. It comes from daring to speak when silence would be easier. Today, Brie is more than an Oscar winner or a superhero. She's a mirror, reflecting both the beauty and the brutality of fame. Her legacy isn't measured in box office numbers, but in courage. The courage to be real, to be raw, and to remain human in a world that rewards masks. Because in the end, Brie Larson's story isn't just about Hollywood. It's about every person who's ever been told they're too much, too loud, or too different. And it proves that sometimes Being misunderstood is the highest form of being true. Brie Larson's journey reminds us that strength isn't about being liked. It's about being unapologetically yourself. Like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories of Hollywood's brightest and bravest stars.